Radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
Let not your heart be troubled. You are listening to the Sean Hannity Radio Show podcast. All right, so I have insomnia, but I've never slept better. And what's changed? Just a pillow. It's had such a positive impact on my life. And, of course, I'm talking about My Pillow. I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep longer, and now you can, too. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 800-919-6090. Use the promo code Hannity, and Mike Lindell, the inventor of My Pillow, has the special 4-pack. Now, you get 40% off 2 My Pillow premiums and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Now, My Pillow is made here in the USA, has a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee, and a 10-year warranty. Go to MyPillow.com right now or call 800-919-6090, promo code Hannity, to get Mike Lindell's special 4-pack offer. You get 2 My Pillow premium pillows and 2 Go Anywhere pillows for 40% off, and that means once those pillows arrive, you start getting the kind of peaceful and restful and comfortable and deep healing and recuperative sleep that you've been craving and you certainly deserve. MyPillow.com, promo code Hannity. You will love this pillow. All right, glad you're with us. Sean Hannity Show. Write down our toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of this extravaganza. We are in Vegas, the 50,000-watt blowtorch freedom of speech in Vegas. News Talk, 720 KDWN. The left in this country is now unhinged. I've said so many times, journalism is dead. They're ideologically agenda-driven. They don't care about telling you the truth. No wonder they want shows like this off the air. They can't tolerate that we expose them for who they are. What they have been doing as it relates to this tragic shooting in Vegas and how their natural impulse and instinct is to politicize a tragedy before any information is available is so quintessentially typical now. They did the same thing in Puerto Rico. The president's in Puerto Rico today. He'll be where we are in Vegas tomorrow. And there's nothing in their minds this president can do right. I've got a lot to say about this. When I give you this information, your jaw's going to just drop open because it's like a bunch of groupthink. It's like an instinct now. They all think the same. They all tweet each other. They all think that they're smarter. They all live in New York and D.C. and Los Angeles and San Francisco, and they have no idea how real Americans think. They still don't understand the outcome of the election. It's so bad. Now, before I do that, I had John Rich and Kaya Jones on Hannity last night, and if you didn't see it, I'm going to show it again tonight. It was a little over an hour before this terrible event took place. And what Big and Rich, Kenny, they're friends of mine. We've had them on the show just fairly recently, as a matter of fact, about their new single, California. And every show they invite military people up. They hand them the microphone. They let them tell their stories. By the way, kind of dovetails a little bit into this whole NFL issue, which we haven't been spending a whole lot of time talking about. And, it was so nice of ESPN to change course, and they decided to air the national anthem on Monday Night Football only because of the Vegas shooting. Oh, so nice of them to change course. Anyway, so what they invite the military up. The crowd was almost 30,000 people that this guy was firing at. We're frankly, with 59 dead and 529 injured, and he's firing an automatic weapon, which is illegal. Yeah, it's illegal already. Then you just got to sit and wonder. I mean, everybody in that huge crowd, it's almost like they're all sitting ducks. It's unbelievable. And what the cops did to stop this guy is even more courageous and unbelievable. But just before, now a little over an hour before, that crowd was singing God Bless America. And the entire crowd, and we put it up on my website, Hannity.com, the entire crowd picked up their cell phones in unison And you can hear them singing this. I've now probably watched this 50 times. I've tweeted it out at Sean Hannity on Twitter. I put it up on Hannity.com. I'm going to show it again on TV tonight, 9 Eastern. I just want to play the audio version and show you this. You know what? There's not one person there that was being asked if they're a Republican or Democrat, a liberal or a conservative. They're our fellow Americans, and they came under fire because evil exists in this world. If that doesn't move you, nobody that got shot that night this wasn't political. Whatever the agenda this shooter might have had, I don't know. And this gets to my biggest complaint in all of this, and that is the natural first instinct of those on the left is to politicize a tragedy and try and score cheap political points. That's not where my mind naturally goes when something horrible happens. I don't think it's where the minds of normal people go. But that's where the left is. It's for them. They wake up in the morning, as Newt Gingrich, who will join us in the next hour, has said, oh, how can we hate Trump today? How can we hate conservatives today? How can we try and bring him down today? And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. You know, let me give you an example. Hillary Clinton does a podcast on Monday. Republicans and the NRA are complicit in gun violence. What is she really saying here? They're responsible for what happened in Vegas. Listen.
Do you feel like they're complicit, the GOP, the NRA, in the gun epidemic we're seeing in America?
Of course they are. Of course they are. You know, the Brady bill actually kept 2 million guns out of the hands of people who weren't supposed to have them. If we had gone forward with the background check capacity that we should have had and that it was up to date, my gosh, we computerize everything and we can't computerize that. Mm-hmm. Dylan Roof was never supposed to get that gun that he used to kill people at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston because he had a pre-existing arrest that should have disqualified him. But the system, you know, is deliberately kept all creaky and slow. We don't even allow people to get federal funds to look into gun deaths and what makes, some people more inclined to reach for a gun and how we keep guns out of the hands of, criminals and the mentally ill. One of the first things Trump did when he became president was to undo the regulation from the Obama era. So, mental health records no longer prevent you from buying a gun. In fact, being blind does not any longer prevent you from buying a gun. I mean, this is beyond absurd. This is evil. Mm-hmm. This is nothing but pure, unadulterated greed motivated by people who want to sell as many guns as they can to engage in a falsity of fear and rhetoric about why everybody has to have guns. And, there's just the evidence is just so clear that more guns do not keep you safer, and more guns in the wrong hands lead to terrible incidents. But, we've had 273 events in this past year of mass shootings, which means 4 or more killed. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we see the horrors of Las Vegas. It happens every day. It's part of the 91 people who get killed every single day by guns.
It just is a lie. It is a fabrication. It is for a political cause that she says that. And it is universally echoed. The Democratic Party has their own press office, and it's called the mainstream media because all they do is echo whatever their talking points are on any given day. And that's the New York Times. That's the Washington Post. That's ABC, NBC, CBS. It's certainly CNN. I don't even know why CNN is actually running. Donald Trump is in Puerto Rico. He's handing out aid supplies. The reception he has gotten was over the top positive, and people were literally clapping and hooraying that he was there. The whole story that was told this weekend, the whole narrative by the left, especially on that channel, CNN and NBC, they were lying to the American people the whole weekend long and all last week, and I'll get to that later. But it is now, it's picked up to the point where it is basically all the people here. You've got Chris Murphy, Democratic senator, in action on gun control, is sending an unintentional endorsement. He basically is saying, well, if you support the Second Amendment, you're pretty much responsible, too. Basically what Hillary's saying. Notice they all echo the same talking points. Another story. After Made in America mass murder, Tom Brokaw urges viewers to organize against the NRA. I thought the media was supposed to be fair and balanced. When are they ever going to put John Lott on? He wrote the book More Guns, Less Crime. I said last night on TV, and I got criticized for it, I said if I was in San Bernardino, not at the Mandalay Bay incident, I said to Laura Ingraham, I said if I was there, when they dropped their clips and had to reload, and I've been trained in the use of a firearm my entire life, do you want me in the room with a firearm? If you're somebody that's in that room, I do. Because during the reloading process is when you can save lives. You have at least a shot instead of being there for the slaughter. See, Jimmy Kimmel now, I guess he got good ratings the last time he brought up politics. Might as well double down on politics. The GOP should pray for God to forgive them. They helped cause the shooting. Jimmy, they did not cause somebody to be evil and deranged. That'd be like, well, they caused 9/11. Well, maybe if we're going to use that logic, when Kim Jong-un uses nuclear weapons and has ICBMs, are you going to blame Bill Clinton, who told the American people it was a great deal because his bribery efforts didn't work? Will you blame Obama when the Iranian deal blows up as well? We've got to have some level of consistency here. Keith Olbermann, the NRA is a terrorist organization that enables massacres. On The View, they said the killing of fellow Republicans won't spur GOP to action on guns. Of course, everybody that likes country music has to be a Republican. Brian Williams pushing gun control during an interview. Trevor Noah, I've never been to a country where people are so afraid to speak about guns. What do you mean we speak about it as nauseum? But there is a time and a place. Bodies weren't even cold in the morgue, for God's sakes, and parents are standing outside praying on their knees that their children that were shot, clinging to life, may survive. These people are so twisted and sick. Seth Meyers to Congress, it'd be more honest for you to admit you wouldn't take any action. You know something? Bill Clinton was president, the Murrah building, fertilizer. And what else do they use with the fertilizer? Ammonia used to blow up the building. Is fertilizer still for sale? It's unbelievable. They don't understand that evil comes from somebody's heart. And if they're not going to use a gun, then they're going to use a truck or a car or a bomb that they make, or a suicide weapon, or a pressure cooker like they did in Boston with the marathon there. Because evil is in their heart. It's so despicable. And then, of course, tweeting out, well, pray only Trump-tards died, or the CBS lawyer. No sympathy for Vegas victims. They're all probably Republicans. Hey, white supremacists, Trump supporters are being killed in the Vegas massacre. Well, these people nauseate me. They lied about this case. I'll give you the truth about Puerto Rico, too. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. Many thanks to our affiliate out here, News Talk 720 KDWN. We will be broadcasting tonight our new time, of course, on the Fox News. I promise you it's different than any other news channel you'll tune into, any news report you'll tune into at 9. We'll take a quick break. We're on the Strip. We're in Vegas. Hannity tonight at 9. It's not going to be CNN, NBC, CBS, or ABC, I promise. All right, as we roll along from Vegas, Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number, worst mass shooting in American history. We do have a history that we're going to break down, and we have many guests. Newt Gingrich weighs in today. We'll also have Kaya Jones, maybe John Rich. Together, they sang God Bless America about an hour before all this went down, and a fascinating story about what they had to do. We'll get to the president on Puerto Rico also today, and we have a debate on that and much, much more. Some new information. I'm a little bit stunned that it's taking so long to get information here. And a part of me is always suspicious when it's slow like this. What do the authorities know at this point? One thing that the New York Post has pointed out is this madman shooter, Stephen Paddock, set up a camera inside his hotel room to capture the deadly shooting rampage. He also set up other surveillance in the hallway to alert him as cops closed in on him, according to reports. And the shooter had at least one lens set up to tape himself as he's unleashing evil and hell on thousands of unsuspecting concert goers at just several hundred yards below his ritzy casino suite. And apparently knowing the cops would eventually be catching up with him, he wired cameras in the hallway on the outside of his room so he could see when they were getting close. And he killed 59 people, 530 or so injured, many hanging on for their lives as we speak. All right, we'll get to all of this. We're going to give you the story behind God Bless America, and I'm going to get into the reception of the president in Puerto Rico and the lie that is being told there as well. We have other stories about how this is all being politicized and the rush and the race. So, let's forget about the families and the victims. Let's turn this into a gun control debate. It's only 5 seconds after it happened. We'll continue from Vegas, the Sean Hannity Show.
Be sure to check in as soon as you get to your car after work for breaking information you need to know about. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour from Vegas. Our affiliate News Talk 720 KDWN. Hannity tonight on the Fox News Channel. And we're literally going to be within distance of where the crime scene took place. And we'll show you, what we're going to do? We're going to do what the mainstream media is not going to do. And we're just going to point out their hypocrisy, how they politicize these things, which is beyond breathtakingly disgusting and shameful on their part. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the people in Vegas and the families and the mothers and fathers that are praying their kids will be able to survive this evil that happened the other night. And the families that lost loved ones. Unbelievable. There was an incredible moment, though, about a little over an hour before this mass shooting took place. Incredible moment. And Big and Rich have what they've done now over 1,000 shows is they bring up military people that have served this country, that give us the liberties and freedoms we all enjoy to pursue our dreams and live in safe communities and pursue the lives we want because they're sacrifice. Anyway, they tell their stories, and then they lead the entire crowd, this nearly 30,000 people, in singing God Bless America. If you didn't see it last night, we're going to show it in its entirety. And it just, when I first saw it, I've watched it 50 times, and it gives me chills every time I see it. And the whole crowd has their phones up. And it's dark, and you see everybody's cell phone. Nobody's a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative. They're Americans singing God Bless This Country. I have the video up on Twitter at Sean Hannity, and on our website, Hannity.com. We'll show it on Hannity tonight, the TV show, 9 Eastern, 6 o'clock here in Vegas. Kaya Jones is a friend of both mine and John Rich and Kenny, Big and Rich, and anyway, she was on stage when all that happened. Her best friend actually took this video and graciously made it available to us so we can show everybody what was an incredible moment just an hour before all this happened. And she joins us now. She is a Vegas resident, and I can't stop watching it, Kai. I just have to see it again and again.
Yeah, well, you know what? The reason for that is because they're blessing our country. All of us are blessing the country in that moment. That's why. An incredibly beautiful moment of God Bless America. We're all singing for us to bless our nation. And, it was moving, and it still is moving. To think that moments later, innocent people, part of that group, would be gunned down, literally, moments later. So it's a really intense thing to know that, because watching it, it just feels like a perfect unifying moment. It's a blessing.
So after all that happened, both you and my buddy John Rich, you had left the concert area. You hear the shooting, you hear what's going on, and you guys got in a lockdown situation yourself. Tell us what happened.
Well, we were barricaded into, basically John's bar because we were told that there were 3 active shooters on the strip. We didn't know different. So as far as we were concerned, we had to lock up. We had one gun for all of us in there, 50 to 75 people in this bar, barricaded in, hoping like this is not true. There's not active shooters that are coming down the Las Vegas Strip. It was really scary because in real time we were also seeing SWAT. Big Kenny was on the bus. He couldn't get off of the bus. They wouldn't allow it. SWAT.
Yeah. What's the name? I didn't even know John owned a bar in Vegas. What's the name? Is it a country bar?
Oh, what's John's a country bar's name? Why am I blanking right now? Redneck Riviera.
that's where the Floribama is on the Florida Alabama line down south. But all right, so here is I guess what I'm asking is, so then you got barricaded in, and tell us what happened when I guess it was an FBI off-duty FBI guy came up to you guys, right?
Yeah, he came up to John and said, "Hi, Mr. Rich. I'm on my honeymoon. I'm not carrying. I'm, an active officer," and showed his credentials. Are you carrying? That's what he asked John. And John was the only one in the entire place carrying, which was crazy to think, but he was the only one. And then he, after checking his credentials, handed his firearm over to the officer to protect us. And he did, because he's a better person with the gun. So he probably got a better shot and, can handle the situation. So he had trust in him to hand it over, which was amazing to do because that's scary. I remember looking at John and he goes, "I feel a little nervous, but you know what? He's the right one to have it right now." And, we were getting calls, literally calls from friends, texts. They were, at the Bellagio, or they were over at Mandalay Bay, or they were, barricaded behind the stage. People were, shot and dead around them or around the stage area where they were barricaded behind the stage. DJ Silver's wife and baby was on the 32nd floor beside the shooter, the next room over. So
wow. Hearing
those kinds of things and realizing that, oh my God, like, is his kid and his wife okay? Is he going to be okay? People that we had met down at the festival, had been killed. So it's just very intense to know that you're getting, I had my old assistant. She reached out and said, "Oh my God, are you okay? I'm bruised up. She got trampled by trying to run, and then my first boyfriend ever hearing that he was helping people and he was covered in blood."
Well, Kaya, we'll see you on TV tonight. We're going to play that entire song again, and I know people want to see it. I can't see enough of it. And
well, they were blessing our nation. I think that's what we need to take away.
It shows you how precarious life is. If you're there an hour later, you're in the middle of all that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, none of us thought that, and none of those people, the 59 that are confirmed dead, thought that was the last time they would sing that song. So it's an honor that they blessed our nation with their voice that night.
All right, Kaya Jones, thanks for being with us. Newt Gingrich weighs in on this at the top of the hour. I just think things have just gotten so bad. I've mentioned all of those in the political world. Then you've got, of course, Hollywood and the entertainment world. Lady Gaga. Like, we really need lectures from Lady Gaga. Does she have armed bodyguards when she's on the road? I bet she does. Anyone going to do an investigation, Lady Gaga? Prayers are important, but Speaker Ryan and Donald Trump's blood is on the hands of those who have the power to legislate. Gun control, act quickly. Wonder if she ever hired a bodyguard that's armed. Let's see, Gigi Hadid, or whatever her name is. Hadid, I don't know. I feel like every day more shocking and sad, etc. And it sickens me the ease with which a terrorist can be sold a gun. Is the ease really worth these lives? This needs to stop. Have you ever had an armed bodyguard? Alyssa Milano, sensible gun control. Do you have armed bodyguards? Sheryl Crow making the same, type of thing. Sophia Bush, dear Donald, F you for this. Truly, sincerely. Wow, these Hollywood people are so nice. They're so loving and accepting of other people's views. Hold them accountable. The GOP. And I could just keep going. The problem is I don't even know half of these idiots that call themselves celebrities. because I'm really not interested. Anyone care that Saturday Night Live is sunk to a new low, calling the president a cheap cracker and a bitch? That's Saturday Night Live. So nice of them. Cheap cracker and a bitch. NBC. You proud of that? People proud of the fact that Melania's books are rejected by a librarian? You know? No wonder why these people are trying so hard every day to get me fired. It's, I guess I'm a threat to them because their views are insane. And they only want one view. I'll give you an example of what's happening in Puerto Rico. This whole issue in Puerto Rico, the president went there today and he got standing ovations handing out food and supplies that was there from the beginning because they had pre-positioned it. The media's been lying there, too. One of the worst hurricanes, 200-mile-an-hour winds. You look at it and all the vital infrastructure, the power grid gone, water supplies gone, cell phone service gone, airports and roads damaged. They had pre-positioned food, water, medicine, supplies, and it was immediately getting out there. There's 15,000 federal workers, military, FEMA workers on the ground and have been on the ground, distributing the supplies that our friends and family in Puerto Rico need. And there's one, but again, you have the mayor of San Juan was more interested in doing television interviews. What I love the most is her sitting in front of pallets of supplies. She's not distributing them. She's complaining, they're not doing. Give out the supplies that are right behind you. Turns out she wants to run for governor. Well, the neighboring mayor, the governor of Puerto Rico, and every other politician has been thanking the president for all that he did. She just wants to run, so she tried to run against Donald Trump. That didn't work out well. In the middle of last week, I think it was Wednesday, there was a report in Stars and Stripe about Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, U.S. Army North Commander, and Colonel Jim Marin, 165th Airlift Wing Commander, and how they were taking over command of the military portion of the rescue relief operations in Puerto Rico. This was the middle of last week. Now, remember, the island's devastated, and the Pentagon had deployed literally 5,000 troops in the middle of all this. That doesn't include FEMA people. And Lieutenant General Buchanan took command, the military portion of the command and rescue relief operations. This was a Category 5 storm. The Navy Lieutenant Commander, Jim Nowrocki, a spokesman for the U.S. Northern Command. Buchanan's a 35-year infantry officer who led troops through 4 tours of Iraq and served as a senior commander in Afghanistan. He's now been down the ground helping the people of Puerto Rico. We've got the best people possible helping. His deployment came after the Army had sent Brigadier General Rich Kim to Puerto Rico to head up and lead the land-based forces in operation, which had shifted primarily from the Navy ship-based response to the disaster. But all the food, water, medicines, and supplies were there. And yet everybody started, he's not in Puerto Rico. He was so in Puerto Rico. And what about San Juan's Trump-bashing mayor wouldn't show up for any meetings, including with FEMA, or help in any way? My favorite picture, her standing in front of pallets and pallets of supplies that the federal government had sent and trying to politicize this. It's unbelievable. Now Puerto Rico's on the road to recovery. 47% of residents now have running water. It's going to be 60 or 70% by the end of the week, according to the governor. 50% of people in Puerto Rico now have their cell service. The electric grid is going to need to be rebuilt. That's going to take a little while, but they're doing everything they can do. The president got a standing ovation. Everybody wanted a selfie with him today, and people were applauding him. And the president, on top of everything else, is adding $10 to $15 billion in more disaster aid. Yeah, that sounds like a really racist president to me. And everybody in the media, they ran with the same lying narrative. Jumped to politicize everything. Apparently, they did have some trouble with trucks, and apparently a lot of the truckers weren't available, and that became a problem. So the military started airlifting the food to areas that needed it. So disgusting. This is the world we live in. Newt Gingrich is going to join us when we come back. Hannity at 9, 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. We're in Vegas Many thanks to our affiliate, News Talk 720, KDWN, the 50,000-watt blowtorch of freedom and free speech. From Vegas, it's the Sean Hannity Show, and we will continue. Newt Gingrich is next. We got an incredible Hannity tonight on location, 9 Eastern, 9. All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show, we're in Vegas, 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. Newt Gingrich, Mike Huckabee. We'll also be checking in with some of our police experts, what the police were able to pull off getting to that 32nd floor. Breach into the room of the shooter was pretty miraculous to save lives. Maybe we'll wait the next time, not rush to judgment if there's an incident about police, and give them the assumption of innocence before we just scream guilty. We're going to get into the absolute lying of the media, the left, the politicizing a tragedy. 9 Eastern tonight on Hannity. We'll take a break. Newt, Governor Huckabee, much more straight ahead. All right, it's hour 2 as we come to you from Vegas, the studios of our affiliate, 50,000-watt blowtorch of freedom and freedom of speech. News Talk 720 KDWN, 800-941-SEAN is our number. We've been going over with great specificity and detail this impulse, immediate impulse. We have 59 people dead. We have 530 people in a hospital, many clinging to life, and within seconds and hours, the rush, the race to politicize the event and immediately turn this into a gun control debate is beyond nauseating. I just spent the last half hour giving out facts about the truth, about 15,000 federal workers, including military leaders, some of our best commanders on the ground leading the efforts. And but for one mayor, everybody thanked the president, gave him a standing ovation today, wanted selfies with him as the president was handing out supplies. And the mayor of San Juan standing in front of pallets and pallets of food and water and medicine and supplies that she should have been distributing, criticizing the president. But she didn't have time to go to the FEMA meetings on how to best get this assistance that had been pre-positioned by the federal government to the people of Puerto Rico. Anyway, joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. Mr. Speaker, how are you? Glad you could join us from Vegas today.
Well, listen, I'm delighted to join you, and I think this whole story in Puerto Rico is a perfect example of what's wrong with the system. Here's a mayor who is elected by local folks who's supposed to be in charge of solving a local problem, and she is instead, as you point out, not going to the meetings, not involved in the help, and grandstanding, I think, because she wants to run for governor.
She does want to run for governor. Geraldo told me. Yeah.
So I think it's a situation which ended up, frankly, making her look bad. And as often happens when you're dealing, with Trump, it turns out in the long run, he was right and she was wrong.
All the supplies were there. I can't believe she's standing in front of pallets of supplies that we sent and yelling at the president instead of giving the food, the water, the medicine, the supplies to the people. It's pretty spectacular.
Of course, part of the problem, of course, is that people are hurting and people are scared. And I saw the president talk to one guy today who still has no electricity, and that's in a pretty urban area. I mean, it's much worse in rural Puerto Rico. And so being a local politician, she could say, I could take the blame or I could blame somebody else. And so instead of trying to help solve the problem, she tried to dump the blame on the president.
One of the things I think...
But by the way,
yeah.
this is the third, you had Texas, Louisiana, then you had Florida, now you have Puerto Rico. And I think overall that the system has worked surprisingly well considering how much strain is under.
Yeah.
It's an enormously difficult problem.
Well, what's amazing is, because they had everything pre-positioned, which the same tactics, the same strategies that they use for Texas and Florida, they use for Puerto Rico. What they did is they had Navy ships, literally, that were positioned with food, water, medicine, supplies, everything they knew that they were going to need in a safe area. And as soon as the hurricane passes, remember, this was a Cat 5. This was a disastrous hurricane. Then those supplies were instantaneously brought in. You've got Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, U.S. Army North Commander, and Colonel Jim Marin, 165th Airlift Wing Commander. As of Wednesday of last week, they had 5,000 troops on the ground, and when they weren't able to get through some of the roads were unpassable, they started airlifting to the areas that most needed the help.
Yeah, and I think this will continue. I have a paper which I've been sharing at the White House and which I'm going to post tomorrow on foxnews.com, and it'll be my newsletter at Gingrich Productions. And it basically talks about how do we, once we get past this first phase of recovery, how do we start setting the stage for really helping create a 21st century Puerto Rico that can be truly prosperous and not just going back and fixing old, obsolete infrastructure, which was frankly crumbling before the hurricane, but instead taking this as an opportunity to really bring a dramatically better future to the people of Puerto Rico. And I think we have the potential to do that, and we have the potential to leave them with both a dramatically improved economy and a dramatically improved infrastructure.
You know, one of the things that I was actually very impressed with, considering you're right, I mean, all the infrastructure was knocked out. The electrical grid was knocked out. Everything that people needed, the island, the vital infrastructure, the power grid, the water, the cell phone, already they've been able to get more than half the residents now have running water. That's going to be about 60-70% by the end of this week. The governor said that nearly 50% of people now have the cell phone service back. It's going to obviously take a while for the electric grid to get back on track. But, you know, I watched the reception the president got today, and it was unbelievable. Everywhere he went, people were so thankful for what he had done. And clearly they recognized that there was a disparity between the words of a politician and what the president had actually accomplished.
Well, I think if you have your entire island totally devastated and you see help coming in, you are so grateful because you know that the alternative was, you know, potentially your family having no water, having no food. I mean, people really were right at the edge of desperation. And I might point out, by the way, as we watch the impact of having no electricity, my good friend who you know, Bill Fortune, wrote a book a few years back called 1 Second After, which really describes life in a North Carolina town after an electromagnetic pulse attack takes out the electricity system. And we tend to forget how really dependent we are on electricity and how much that is part of what defines civilization in the modern world. And I think there's a warning here for the whole country that we should be hardening our electricity capabilities because we both have the danger of a man-made electromagnetic pulse attack like North Korea, and we have the danger of a natural solar attack such as happened in 1859.
Let me, before I get to everything that has happened, I agree totally with you, and I think that is part of your defense course that I highly urge people to go to the link and listen to you as you go into your professor mode. I want to play for you Jennifer Gonzalez Colon. Now, she and every other mayor and the governor were praising the president. I just want to play her comments and some of the applause for the president as well. Listen to this.
The first thing is that before we were hit by Maria, we were hit by Hurricane Irma. And during that time, before the hurricane, he was FEMA acting together with a lot of employees. More than 4,000 people were here in the island for the different branches of the military, HHS, Navy, Army, FEMA, and all the staff working together before the hurricane hit. They were here before, during, after the first hurricane, and they continued to stay on the island, boots on the ground, during Maria. Same thing. I think we never got the level of communication between the federal government and the local government like never before. And we are in the path of the hurricanes. So we are used to receiving hurricanes, but never before a Category 5. The amount of devastation, it's unheard of. But during all this time, we got the federal government by our side, doing the job, with the people here, like you in the military, doing all that has been asked, all the questions and requests that the governor did. The president and his cabinet accomplished it and send more people, and it's continued to send in more people, trucks, drivers, and resources. Thank you, Mr. President, for all you've been doing for the island.
That's pretty amazing. All right, I want to. I'm in Vegas today, Mr. Speaker, and look, we've seen a lot of tragedy, shootings under many presidents, and there is evil in our time, and we all go through it. You know, I could give out the history of all of this, but I can tell you, everybody in Hollywood, and everybody in the news media, and everybody in Democratic politics, what do you make of this initial impulse, they're not thinking about, oh, my gosh, we have to help our fellow Americans. The impulse is to politicize the tragedy. The impulse is to attack the president. The impulse is to blame conservatives that believe in the Second Amendment for what happened here.
Well, I mean, look, first of all, part of that's just standard. There is a part of the reason I developed the course in Defending America, which people can see at defendingamericacourse.com, is because you have this unending assault on the Second Amendment by people who don't understand why it's there and don't understand its purpose. But it was written there by the Founding Fathers to literally preserve our political freedom. These were people who had seen that if the farmers at Lexington and Concord had not had the right to bear arms, we would have still been a colony of Great Britain. And so they didn't just write that in for hunting or for skeet shooting. They wrote that in as a political statement that that a free people have to have the right to defend themselves. Now, I have to tell you, Sean, I think this event is so horrendous. I mean, it resembles although one man was responsible, but it resembles the attack in Paris on the nightclub and where all the people were shot. I mean, I can't quite get my head around this many dead and this many wounded, and the viciousness and the deliberation of somebody who clearly had premeditated renting those rooms, looking for apparently a country and Western event. I mean, the whole thing is so bizarre that I've been biting my tongue because I know that I don't understand it yet, and I know that there's something here, as the president said, there was total evil, but there's something here that just doesn't fit. You know, when you live in a rational world, you know. I agree. And I want to know more about this guy and why he did what he did.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we always love having you. And your defense course is up on my website, Hannity.com.
Right.
We expect a little bit of a presser coming up here. We'll be dipping in and out, perhaps. And Newt Gingrich has been amazing in his analysis pretty much on everything we've been talking about lately. We need to get this information out. We'll take a quick break, early break. We'll come back. We'll see what's said in the latest in this briefing and much more. As we continue from Vegas, it's the Sean Hannity Show, news and information you won't get anywhere else. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show, let's dip in. The very latest, Sheriff Joseph Lombardo is with the Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. An update on the shooting from, here's what he has to say.
Okay, so as a matter as formality, our department has worked through the night to identify all the victims of Sunday evening's mass shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. We have identified all but 3 victims. We still have an active scene at the grounds near Mandalay Bay, so we ask anyone to stay away from that area until further notice. The FBI is working diligently to clear that scene. So the question is the FBI versus us. We have partnered with the FBI, as I said, from the very beginning of this in the investigative phase. The FBI has brought a large amount of resources out of Washington, D.C. to assist us with that. So the reason why the Harvest Festival is still in continuation of investigation is not only solely related to the removal of the victims, but it's also documentation of the scene. So we're using the best practice technology to ensure that we have complete documentation. That's why it is taking a longer period of time associated with this. So we ask for everybody's patience. As far as Las Vegas Boulevard, north and south, we anticipate to be open shortly in the next few hours to benefit with commerce and what we do as a community. All right, the key component here is resources and victim identification. So bear with me. I'm going to try to get through this the best I can. But the important piece is if you missed a number, we are putting up on lbmpd.com in the next hour the listing of all numbers I shall provide you today, and for people out in the public to contact us if they are lacking this or they don't see this broadcast. Okay, we're asking for anyone who might have information about the shooting in a criminal capacity or is a victim of the shooting to contact us via 311. If you are out of state, if you have left since the shooting, and you have discovered you feel that you have become a victim, or you realize you have an injury associated to it, we're still asking you to contact us, but the out-of-state number will be 702-828-3111. Additionally, if you are local and you have the ability to respond to a local substation, a working police substation, locals are familiar with, you have the ability to file a report at that location. Now, the family reunification. All that is occurring at the Family Resource Center at the Convention Center located at 3150 Paradise Road. You can go there to file a missing person report. You can go there to have contact with the coroner's office. And you can go there to get answers to your questions as far as family reunification. The phone number, if you have left the area, is 1-866-535-5654. Now, we went through a little short process here recently where that number was down. We provided a separate number, but we will go back to that original number because we have the technical aspects of that fixed. So I want to be very clear on the difference. If you are reporting a crime or you feel you are a victim of a crime, 311 is your outlet or a local police substation. If you are looking for victim information or...
All right, that's the very latest. Any more information comes out there, we'll make sure it's available for you. 800-941-SEAN, our number. Don't forget, we'll be broadcasting tonight right here in Vegas.
Bold, inspired solutions for America. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, a number of other lawmakers who won't do anything about this because the NRA has their balls in a money clip, also sent their thoughts and their prayers today, which is good. They should be praying. They should be praying for God to forgive them for letting the gun lobby run this country.
Why don't we act? What is the problem? What was it about first graders losing their lives that wasn't sad enough to result in changes?
Because when you say, which you always say, now is not the time to talk about it, what you really mean is there is never a time to talk about it. And it would be so much more honest if you would just admit that your plan is to never talk about it and never take any action.
The NRA has just incredible grip on the Republican Party, and our job is going to be to turn NRA into not relevant anymore in American politics.
Some say it's too early to talk about gun control. For those victims last night, it's far too late.
Guns. I've never been to a country where people are as afraid to speak about guns. Every time there's a shooting, you got to look at something else. Is it Muslims? Is it their religion? Is that what it is? Is it blacks? It's the blacks. It's the black-on-black crime.
Do you feel like they're complicit, the GOP, the NRA, in the gun epidemic we're seeing in America?
Of course they are. Of course they are.
We have to act. This is not just one time. We have enough data and enough evidence to know what we have to do. We have a moral responsibility to do something. Otherwise, we are failing. We are failing the people of this country whose lives are at stake.
There's no reason Americans should have military-style weapons in their possession. No reason whatsoever. Why do we have a group of laws? A guy can have 20 weapons, 25 weapons like this, and literally just go hunting for human beings like he did a couple of nights ago.
Reinstate the assault weapons ban or come up with a better answer. Anything but nothing. Doing nothing is cowardice.
Thoughts and prayers are good, but they are simply not enough. Thoughts and prayers are not enough when more moms and dads will bury their children this week, and thoughts and prayers are not enough when sons and daughters will be forced to grow up without their parents. Attacks like we have seen today have happened all too often in America.
This is going to reopen the debate over guns in this country.
Well, it is, but I think it's really important to make sure we do it accurately.
I think this is time for a national dialogue that we can have in a calm and reasoned way in which the country can figure out how come we have so many mass shootings in this country. We can't have that conversation because it immediately becomes so emotional between the gun owners of America who are protected by the NRA and other people who are saying there ought to be a more reasonable middle ground.
What Congress must do is pass laws that keep our citizens safe. And that starts with laws that help prevent guns, especially the most dangerous guns, from falling into the wrong hands.
We saw this evil in Newtown just a few years ago. Nothing has changed since Newtown. Congress has been complicit. We also ought to be angry. In fact, I'm furious that Congress has been complicit. Now is the time for action.
You want to make America great again? Do something the last two presidents haven't been able to do. Pass any kind of common sense gun control legislation.
To the people of Las Vegas, I can't give you thoughts and prayers. I can only say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we live in a world where there are people who will put a gun before your lives.
All right, toll-free telephone number remains the same. It's 800-941-SEAN. If you want to be a part of the program, we're in Las Vegas today. Many thanks to our affiliate out here, News Talk 720, the 50,000-watt blowtorch of freedom of speech that covers almost the entire United States, KDON Radio, where Vegas comes to talk, and they have been so hospitable here. But it's this impulse. People's bodies aren't even cold yet. Families waiting in hospital waiting rooms, their kids hanging and clinging to life, to politicized tragedy. And as I said earlier, I'm going to stand by this. You know, I remember when I went on my book tour, Deliver Us from Evil, and Defeating Terrorism and Despotism and Liberalism, because there's a mindset that thinks that you can capitulate to evil. You know, the whole thing, the whole deal, Bill Clinton said, there's a good deal for the American people. I just bribed Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father, and I gave him billions of dollars and gave him energy and all this stuff, and now we have peace. Well, that's like peace in our time, Neville Chamberlain, and you cannot appease evil. You can't negotiate with it. You can't appease it. You must identify it, and ultimately, when you identify evil, you've got to defeat it. And the same thing is with the Iranian deal, and the same thing is on a level like this. If you have in your heart you want to slaughter and murder innocent people, there are all sorts of ways that you can figure out. It's astonishing how evil minds can work. If they ever put their minds towards more productive endeavors in their life, it's amazing what they might be able to accomplish. You know, maybe making the world a better place. So they're just trying to make it a place that they themselves, they benefit. And whatever sick, twisted reason. Oh, look, you have evil. Somebody that could offend a little child or sexually abuse a child, that is evil in our time. Any man that would ever rape a woman, that's evil in our time. Is it not evil when somebody murders an innocent person? Or you see videotapes capturing young kids beating up old people because they need $20 to go buy their next fix and their next heroin fix or crack fix or whatever it happens to be. All of those instances are evil. The last 100 years of human history, when you figure all the evil that the United States was involved in fighting back on, fascism, Nazism, former Soviet Union, communism, Imperial Japan, the killing fields in Cambodia. Well, that's about, when you add up all the numbers, about 100 million human souls. So you can't tell me there's not evil. So somebody, all right, in this instance, decided to use firearms to kill innocent people. Well, similarly, what if he drove a truck through that crowd? What if somebody built a bomb of some kind and got into the crowd? I mean, there's all sorts of ways that they'll figure it out. And we see it all over the world. We see it all across Europe. We see it in the Middle East. We see it in the United States. My complaint is when you don't identify it for what it is. But even with all that said, why is there this compulsion, this reflex, it's sort of instantaneous? Oh, people shot. Let's blame guns. Let's blame conservatives because they support guns. And then let's even take it a step further. Let's hope that some conservatives, it's only Trump supporters that die in this mess. Let's go there. Let's talk about that. after all, they're the ones that wanted guns, so we might as well kill them in this process. And that's the way. That's where some minds go in all of this. That's how evil their minds are. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN is our number if you want to be a part of the program. Joining us now, we have Dan Linsky is with us. He's the former chief of the Boston Police Department. He's an incident commander during the Boston Marathon bombing attack and now managing director of Knoll. Also with us is Rockingham County, North Carolina Sheriff Sam Page. Thank you both for being with us. Dan, I want to play this tape again of when the police scanner, when these cops actually made it to the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay and they now had to go for a full breach. I want you to listen to the bravery of these cops. They knew this guy had an automatic weapon. They knew that they were up against tremendous firepower, but they did it anyway, which is why we say policemen are so courageous, because they are. Just listen to this.
109 is coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up, I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. We have multiple casualties, GSWs in the medical tent. Multiple casualties.
Repeat, just be advised, it is automatic fire. Fully automatic fire from an elevated position. Take cover.
Multiple GSWs to the chest, legs, terminal arteries, at the medical tent. At the medical tent, 4A, off of Guile, south of Reno.
Sit on the suspect's door. I need everybody in that hallway to be aware of it and get back. We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else. Breach.
All right, Dan, you heard they're outside this guy's door. On a scale of 1 to 1,000, I'd say in terms of danger, that's over 1,000.
Yeah, the hair in the back of my neck was standing up. You can tell the emotion in those officers' voices, the tension they're feeling. And, none of them ran away from that challenge. They put themselves, again, between the bad guy and the citizens that they were protecting. And I wanted to go through the radio and stack up with them. A lot of brave individuals did some great work there.
They really did. And I don't know sometimes if we really give these guys the appreciation that they deserve. You heard that too, Sheriff Sam Page. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, when I heard that, I think back of events we've been on, but when you hear automatic fire and you've got to make the breach, you've got to go because your first responsibility is stop that active shooter. And they drove toward the threat and they stopped him. I
want to ask you, Dan, because I lived on the Massachusetts Rhode Island border when, back in the 80s. And every time I drive into Massachusetts, mandatory 1-year prison sentence if I happen to bring my legal gun. I had a license to carry in Rhode Island across the state line. And you were in charge during the Boston Marathon bombing. You were the incident commander at the time. And isn't it true that if somebody has an evil intention in their heart, they're going to configure some way, like they did the Sarnov brothers, to injure innocent men, women, and children? That's
true. Evil knows no bounds, Sean. And, they went on the internet and were able to buy items from, Costco's, essentially, and able to make a device that injured hundreds. So there is other ways that people can impact injury other than firearms. I do think, there has to be responsible regulations. I'm a little concerned about mental health, where we, maybe people go to the hospital if you have a seizure and you get your driver's license taken away. But if you're paranoid schizophrenic and, your doctor's aware of that, there's no notification process. I'm all for making sure we support the rights of firearms, but I think there's some leeway in the middle. But I don't know that the time is now to be talking about it. I think the time is to be honoring the families and the victims, figuring out what, why, and how, and then have that conversation down the road to see if we can come to middle ground on something.
Sheriff, what do you think?
Well, I think that on this situation, and I agree with the former chief, is that right now we've got nearly 59 persons that were killed and over 500 persons injured. Their families, that's who we need to be thinking about right now. Our thoughts and prayers need to go out to them and support to them.
Yeah, that's, you would think that's where everybody's first thought and priority went. I hope the next time there's an incident and people are so quick to rush to judgment when it involves police officers, they deserve the right and the assumption of innocence before proven guilty. And I hope politicians won't rush to judgment like they did in Cambridge, like they did in the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman case, in the Ferguson case, in the Baltimore case, like former President Obama did. You know what? It seems like we never give these guys a break, and we forget what they do on 9/11. We forget what they did here at Mandalay Bay in Vegas. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show, toll-free. Telephone number is 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. We're in Vegas. Many thanks to our affiliate, News Talk 720, KDWN, the 50,000-watt blowtorch of freedom. And we check in with Patty. She's in Vegas. Patty, how are you? Glad you called. It says on my screen your son was almost at that concert.
Yes, he was supposed to, but something said inside of me not go. My daughter goes every year, and she usually sits right up front, and a friend of hers got her free tickets to Portland, so she didn't end up going to the concert. I drove her to the airport that morning, and she's like, no, I think I'm going to stay. I go, no, just go. Go to Portland, and there'll be a concert next year. But she was there last year and the year before that and the year before that, so it was like God gave us a little blessing that moment, but it breaks my heart to see that everybody's turning this into a political anti-gun situation, and how disrespectful people were the day of talking about it. It was heartbreaking, because here as a community we came together. We talked with a lot of our friends that are on Metro. My husband's retired from the police department after 25 years on Metro. So a lot of our friends ran toward to help, and it was just really upsetting to hear a lot of stance that the liberals are taking on this, and the celebrities. Stay out of it. If you don't have anything positive.
You got to understand something. This is their first impulse. Their first impulse is to politicize. And, our first instinct is, oh, my God, is anybody hurt? Oh, my God, is there anything we can do to help? Oh, my God, now we're dealing with another madman. That's not their first impulse. And the same thing politicizing Puerto Rico, the way the left had. They just lie. And I know a lot of people have wanted this radio show to fail and want my television show to fail at its new time. And one of the reasons is because they want a monopoly, control of the media, control of thought. And, if we don't have alternative voices of truth and common sense, we're all screwed, because they just lie to us with regularity. It's pretty despicable, pretty low down. All right, we'll take a quick break. Toll-free telephone numbers 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. When we come back, we're going to check in on the latest out of Puerto Rico, what's going on there. Governor Mike Huckabee also joins us, and we're going to get a lot of your calls in. 800-941-SEAN from Vegas and the studios of News Talk 720 KDWN.
Coming up next, our final news roundup and information overload hour.
All right, news roundup, information overload as we continue from Vegas. Hannity tonight, usual time, 9 Eastern, 6 o'clock out here in Vegas. News Talk 720 KDWN is where we are today. Politicizing the shooting out here is only one issue. And in the lead up to what has happened in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of politicizing there, too. And it's not surprising because, in spite of what had been the most difficult circumstances, the federal government did exactly what they did with Hurricane Harvey, exactly what worked there, with exactly what worked with Irma, and they pre-positioned food and water and medicine and supplies and everything in between. The island was pounded, a direct hit, Category 5, 200-mile-per-hour winds. It was their second hit in a row. Vital infrastructure, the power grid, water, cell phone service, all knocked out. Airports and roads damaged. And instead of focusing on the fact that so many efforts had been made to prepare for all of this, well, you get the media lying almost from the second it all happened. None of what they had been saying, including, say, well, this is about racism again, was ever true. They just outright lied to the American people again. And we showed a lot of the images last night, and the government was on the ground. When you add up all the military people there, and you add up all the FEMA people there, there's over 16,000 federal workers that have been on the ground since last week. And anyway, Sarah Sanders addressed that finally and gave the truth out yesterday. The Trump administration, they sent a 3-star general. I actually tweeted this out, I think, over the weekend, but it came out, I think, Wednesday on Stars and Stripes. How Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, U.S. Army North Commander who listens to Colonel Jim Marin, 165th Air Force Wing Commander in Georgia. And Buchanan took control of the military portion of the rescue and relief operations in Puerto Rico. And the Pentagon ended up deploying a battle-tested general, and as of early last week, they had over 5,000 troops on the ground. Now there's over 15,000 people there working. You have the Lieutenant General Buchanan. He's taken the military portion of rescue and relief operations over. You got images of all these servicemen and women. They're out there handing out food, water, medicine, and supplies. They're airlifting to every area that they can't possibly get to. The three-star general's deployment came after the Army sent the Brigadier General Richard Kim to Puerto Rico to lead the land-based forces as the operation shifted from a primarily Navy ship-based response to the disaster. And then, you've got all this food, all this medicine, all these supplies. You've got pallets and pallets and pallets of it. And then you've got this radicalized mayor in the wake of all of this trying to jump in and politicize what had happened here. And I'm thinking, putting all this aside, I mean, what is it instinctively in people that this is what they want to race to when we're in the middle of a crisis where, monumental proportions? I mean, everything was wiped out here. So they ignore all the facts on the ground, all the people on the ground. The media continues the bash Trump narrative because they had an opportunity to, not based on truth or facts. And let's say that the response wasn't as strong as Florida and Texas because, the president, that just shows his racist instincts. Meanwhile, the supplies were there on the ground, had been going out to people, and it seems the only problem that they had was getting trucks and drivers available to get the food to the outlying areas where people most needed them. But even with that said, before the weekend even came and the heavy criticism out of nowhere, people had already, every single county in Puerto Rico had been given food, water, and supplies, and they were working nonstop. Anyway, so all of that now has to be dealt with. And then, of course, you got the president is out there today, and, but again, it's about politicizing a tragedy. You've got you got the San Juan mayor who's more interested in doing television interviews than helping people on the ground. My favorite picture is the San Juan mayor standing in front of pallets of food and water and supplies, whining about the response. You had the neighboring mayor and the governor praising the president, saying that the San Juan mayor is just playing politics because she's a radical left-winger that wants to run for governor. And they told the truth about the president and the relief efforts. And the governor of Puerto Rico couldn't have been nicer to the president. Neighboring mayors, they couldn't have been nicer to the president. So the question is, why does the liberal mainstream media in this country, why do people on television in this country, run with phony and false narratives the way they always do? Because they don't seem too interested in the truth in all of this. Anyway, joining us now, we have with us Elvira Salazar, Cuban-American journalist and broadcast professional, and Francisco Hernandez is with us, an immigration attorney. I talked to Geraldo. I said, Geraldo, where is this woman coming from with these criticisms? And he said, well, no, she's just running for governor. That was his answer. Every other elected official was praising the president, but the only one quoted by the mainstream media was the one mayor that was politicizing all of this as she stood in front of pallets of supplies. What's your reaction, Elvira?
Well, my reaction is, just like you said, I think that the liberal media has been very unfair with the president. I lived in Puerto Rico for many years. The Commonwealth of Puerto Rico has received billions and billions of dollars from the United States government for more than 120 years, right after the Hispanic-American War. So Puerto Ricans are a protectorate, a Commonwealth, and they have been very close to the United States, and they have enjoyed the fruits of being close to this nation. I believe that right now what's happening is that it has been politicized, just exactly like you said, Sean, and I think that the fact that the president did not cancel his trip to Puerto Rico after what happened 48 hours in Las Vegas shows very clearly that he is committed to that Commonwealth and to that territory. That is not a United States state, but it's a very close dear friend to this country. So right there it shows that he is committed. Not only that, is exactly what you said, is billions and billions of dollars that they have received. It's just I don't believe, and we don't like, and I don't know what Francisco thinks, that Hispanic, I don't want them to be using us and say that President Trump could be anti-Hispanic or racist due to the fact that he is criticizing the government government, the Puerto Rican administration. Calling people to responsibility is not a racist remark. Asking for people to help themselves is not a racist remark. It is a call to responsibility. And I think that's the way we should interpret President Trump's words. He is there, the money is flowing, and we are helping. So, and Puerto Ricans, let me just say one more thing. You have millions, thousands and thousands of Puerto Rico leaving the island as we speak. 65,000 Puerto Ricans.
Oh, wait a minute. I do have some. Listen, even though their power grid is out, we now have numbers coming in that at least 30% of people now have gotten their power back. 60% of people now have running water, and that should climb even higher by the end of the week. About half of the people in Puerto Rico have had their cell phone service restored, and I know for a fact because I've been texting with Geraldo, who's been on the ground there. So at the end of the day, and on top of that, the president is seeking an additional 10 to 15 billion on top of everything that's already been sent. And the only story that seemed to bother me was that, and this was on a website today, and I'd heard this from some of my sources in the White House, that there's some of the truck drivers didn't show up for work to distribute relief supplies. In large part, some of them had their own homes and their own issues at home to deal with, but the biggest problem was getting the truck drivers in the trucks and getting the food to the outer areas.
Okay, but Mr. Hannity, the problem here is that President Trump is falling into defending something that he ought not to even be defending. He's the one that politicized it in the first place. We're politicizing in it right now on your show, just talking about the politics, how unfair it is to the president. We don't care if we shouldn't even care whether it's fair or unfair to the president. The president just stand regally above the fray and say, you know what, this is not a political matter. We're going to do our work.
Well, listen, if it was you, Francisco, and it was being suggested that you were somehow not doing your job when you know you are, and that there's some racial implication in this, I'll give you one example. It reminds me of Ray Nagin, the guy in New Orleans. This city will be a chocolate city. Well, the San Juan Trump-bashing mayor, how come she didn't show up at any of the meetings? How come she didn't meet with FEMA?
And we just raised her profile to an international level by paying attention to it. The president engaged the mayor of the city. What in the world? Why is he even dealing with it? Stand above it, do your job, and move on. But he keeps.
What is the problem? The problem is that the liberal press, or whatever press, is using this topic to use us, the Hispanics in the United States, and to portray the president as racist. We may not agree with some of the policies that President Trump has put forward when it comes to immigration, and we can discuss those, but we should not be falling into the trap of liberal media of letting them use this event with Puerto Rico, that is Hispanic America, in order to then say, you see, Mr. Trump, once again, he is a racist, because it's not convenient for us.
I agree, but you know what? I agree with you 100%, except for the fact that we keep
well, then, Francisco, why don't you say it? You're in the media. You're on 560 stations right now around the country. Why don't you're a leading spokesperson on the issue of immigration. Why don't you say that the president did an amazing job in Puerto Rico, just like he did in Texas and Florida, and then we'll move on.
I don't know what he's done. I assume from everything I can tell, FEMA's done a wonderful job. But why is the president wanting credit? Stay, but do your job and let that race issue off to the side. The more we talk about it, we shouldn't even be talking about Hispanic or chocolate or brown.
Francisco,
ignore it.
I've known you for years, and I know you well enough to know that if somebody attacked you and somebody called you racist, which, by the way, is one of the worst things you can say about somebody, because it's basically saying you're evil and ignorant and not a horrible person and just stupid on top of it. If somebody called you that, you wouldn't defend yourself? I would.
No, because why is he defending himself against the mayor of a city in Puerto Rico? He needs to do his job and be done with it and stop tweeting about it. He has built this mayor that wants to run for governor into an international figure just by his tweets. What in the world? Just leave it alone, do your job, and get out.
Francisco, 46% of Puerto Ricans are on some type of welfare. Puerto Rico has a 12% unemployment rate. Puerto Ricans have the blue passport, and they can come to the United States whenever they want to. They're leaving in masses. 65,000 Puerto Ricans left last year to come either to Florida, where I'm at, or to Orlando. So the United States government, whether it's Trump or Bush or Clinton or Ford or Nixon or whomever, has been extremely generous with the island of Puerto Rico. We Cuban Americans, I know my parents fled Cuba and went to Puerto Rico because it was a United States protectorate. So I think Puerto Ricans should be very grateful to what the United States government has done. It's true that the Puerto Ricans have given a lot of men to go to war, Vietnam and Korea being one example, and they have contributed with the United States economy tremendously. But it's, it's
right,
a give and take.
Well, and we did you just do the right thing. I mean, that's it. And obviously the amount of money and supplies that I've seen on the ground and the number of troops and federal officials and federal government workers that are there, I think shows a massive commitment for support. All right, I want to thank you both for being with us. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. A quick break from Vegas in the studios of News Talk 720 KDWN. It's the Sean Hannity Show. All right, Sean Hannity Show, as we continue, we are in Vegas. Hannity tonight, of course, our new time, which was our old time, which is the new time. We hope you'll set your DVR 9 Eastern, 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. And we've got full and complete coverage of the outrageous politicizing of tragedy and the viciousness of the attacks by the left against anybody that's a conservative and the outright lying of the news media. It's like we're the only ones that are willing to call these people out on a regular basis. All right, let's get to our busy phones here, and let's say hi to John. He's in Alberta. He's in Canada. John, welcome to Vegas. Welcome to the Sean Hannity Show.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me on. And first off, like others, thoughts and prayers to all these people involved in this. I wanted to comment that there are a number of things that people can do sort of immediately for themselves, whether they had a direct experience to this event, were witness of it somehow, or even learning of it third hand, is be attentive to your own self-care. It'll go a long way to avoid being impacted by a trauma or a PTSD if people sort of are obtaining good sleep, good appetite patterns. Definitely use your supports. Talk to people. If things are bothering you as you go through your day, so friends or family or your churches can be a great support for that. Those things in and of themselves
How do you deal with? You're a psychologist, I imagine?
I am.
Listen, I've talked to people that can't sleep here. There are people that work at our radio group here in Vegas that couldn't come to work. They were at the concert, and they just, as the general manager told me, they had been so jacked up on adrenaline, and it's now hitting him. It's like post-traumatic stress for the people that, survived all of this.
Yeah, sleep disturbances at the front end of this are very normal, albeit that they're obviously distressing and disturbing. They're not unusual. The key is do everything you can to get good sleep hygiene, which is be in a cold, dark room. Don't be doing anything else in your bedroom other than sleeping, and keeping that as a sort of sanctuary for that purpose, and/or use different relaxation techniques to relax.
Well, we appreciate your insight, and we want to help people out as much as possible. And if people need to talk to somebody, talk to your pastor, talk to a professional. I don't know why some people associate shame with that. You just watched your fellow citizens, and slaughtered in front of your eyes. Not exactly the normal average day, and if you have a response to it, it would be a very normal thing. All right, 800-941-SEAN. Good advice there if you want to be a part of the program. Governor Mike Huckabee, we're going to replay the God Bless America song that John Rich and Big and Rich were playing. Kaya Jones was on stage at the time, and you got to hear this. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll show it in its entirety tonight on Hannity on the Fox News Channel as we broadcast from Vegas and the Strip. It's the Sean Hannity Show.
Like they're complicit, the GOP, the NRA, in the gun epidemic we're seeing in America?
Of course they are. Of course they are. The Brady bill actually kept 2 million guns out of the hands of people who weren't supposed to have them. If we had gone forward with the background check capacity that we should have had, and that it was up to date, my gosh, we computerize everything and we can't computerize that. Mm-hmm. Dylan Roof was never supposed to get that gun that he used to kill people at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston because he had a pre-existing arrest that should have disqualified him. But the system, is deliberately kept all creaky and slow. We don't even allow people to get federal funds to look into gun deaths and what makes some people more inclined to reach for a gun, and how we keep guns out of the hands of criminals and the mentally ill. One of the first things Trump did when he became president was to undo the regulation from the Obama era. So mental health records no longer prevent you from buying a gun. In fact, being blind does not any longer prevent you from buying a gun. I mean, this is beyond absurd. This is evil. This is nothing but pure, unadulterated greed, motivated by people who want to sell as many guns as they can to engage in a falsity of fear and rhetoric about why everybody has to have guns. And, there's just, the evidence is just so clear that more guns do not keep you safer, and more guns in the wrong hands lead to terrible incidents. But, we've had 273 events in this past year of mass shootings, which means 4 or more killed. So, yes, we see the horrors of Las Vegas. It happens every day. It's part of the 91 people who get killed every single day by guns.
It's fascinating to hear Hillary Clinton, who has had armed guards around her entire adult life, when she was the wife of a governor, when she was a senator, when she was the first lady, and probably now also for the rest of her life, she has somebody defending her that is armed. For the rest of us, I guess, she's too bad for you people. And then she says that, well, if we're going to be honest, Republicans and the NRA, we are complicit. I guess Donald Trump was right. If she won, we'd lose our Second Amendment rights. And this is this impulse to just race to politicize a tragedy without any information. When her husband was president, the Murrah building, the federal Murrah building, was blown up. They didn't use a gun. They used fertilizer and ammonium to blow the thing up. Did we ban that since then? I don't know. There's all sorts of ways you can kill people if evil and the desire to kill and create mass destruction is in your heart. We see so many suicide bombers, knife-wielding attacks. We see people using bats and guns and tire irons. You can use anything you want to kill somebody if that evil exists inside your heart. But it's one big narrative. Before the bodies were even cold in the morgue, before parents knew the fate of their children, the 529 people injured in the hospital, whether or not their kids are clinging to life, as she was politicizing this event. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, in Action on Gun Control, sending an unintentional endorsement of this. Made in America mass murder, Brokaw says, and he's urging viewers to organize against the NRA. Well, let me ask anybody, what do you do if somebody breaks into your house? It happens all the time. We hear about home invasions, break-ins. During the Obama years, where was Hillary doing anything to help the people in Chicago that were victims of gun violence? How many weekends did we have 50-plus shootings? And I've listed the names of people. It's like it doesn't exist if it's a liberal president. Jimmy Kimmel, the GOP should pray for God to forgive them, help cause the shooting. Wow, unbelievable. Keith Olbermann, the NRA is a terrorist organization that enables massacres. On The View, host, even the killing of fellow Republicans in Vegas won't stop the GOP action on guns. Brian Williams pushing gun control during an interview with Senator Blumenthal. Trevor Noah, I have never been to a country where people are so afraid to speak about guns. And the race to politicize a tragedy continues. Unbelievable. Governor Mike Huckabee is with us, Fox News contributor. Welcome back to the program. We're in Vegas today, Governor. How are you?
Well, Sean, I'm doing well. I just have listened. And what I don't understand, when people on the left keep saying, we've got to do something. Well, tell us what that something is. Because if you can fix mass murder with a new law, even though the person who committed it has violated multitudes of laws in order to do that crime, if you can come up with a law that will prevent this from ever happening, just tell us what it is. And then, Sean, let's apply it to domestic violence so that no spouse is ever battered by their partner. Let's apply that to sexual predators. Let's apply that law, whatever it is. Tell us how we can legislate the behavior of people to such a degree that we can eliminate burglary, armed robbery, road rage, everything that makes us a less than civil society. Because I'm all ears for that. But here's what they do. They come to the microphones and they plead to do something, and it's almost as if they say, it doesn't matter if the something works, let's just do something. Well, let's do something. Let's arm everybody, or let's don't. But let's quit playing this ridiculous game that is made for people with IQ barely above broccoli who somehow think that we can pass a law and that everybody will follow it and behave because of it, because that's not true.
The irony of all of this, I don't care if it was Fort Hood or San Bernardino or Orlando and the Pulse nightclub or Chattanooga or the Sarnar brothers or, any of these incidents that happened that were radical Islamic terror related or sympathizers. I remember when San Bernardino came up, and I remember having Bo Dietl on the program, and I remember saying, all right, no, I've been trained in the use of a pistol firearm since I'm 11 years old. And I grew up in a home that had pistols because of my parents' jobs. So they trained me at a young age. I became a marksman at a pretty young age. And so in San Bernardino, remember when the clips dropped and they had to reload? Now, if I was in the room, and I'm trained in the use of a firearm, I'd at least have a shot at saving some of the lives after the reload. Now, do you want me in that room or not want me in that room? I want me in that room to help people.
Well, and the fact is, a person is less likely in America to be the victim of a mass murder shooting than they would be in France, who has a fifth of the population of us. In 2015, in France, there were 532 casualties from mass shootings, which is 5 times more than the U.S. experienced during Obama's entire presidency. The liberals never want to talk about that. And one of the things that happens in a place like France is that people like you or me will never be able to protect ourselves. We'll just have to hope that we can call the authorities and that maybe they will come and rescue us.
How many times do these incidents, and John Lott has put out, multiple versions of his book, More Guns, Less Crime, and how many times do some of these incidents happen in so-called no-go zones for guns or gun-free zones?
Well, John, one of the problems is that the Democrats who politicize this issue, and they always do it, as you pointed out, before the bodies are even cold. I find this just incredibly inhumane that they would bring a political issue up at a time when people haven't even had the chance to grieve. But what I'm still waiting for one of them to do is to tell me exactly what the legislation would say that would prevent this or any other type of crime that they say that they can prevent. And the fact is, there isn't one. And most of them, I saw there was a young lady on Fox this morning. She said, I'm from Arkansas, and my family owns guns, and they hunt, but nobody needs a semi-automatic to hunt with. And I was just screaming at the television and said, sweetheart, maybe you are from Arkansas, but you don't know much about firearms, because most of us who duck hunt with a semi-automatic shotgun, and a lot of people hunt with semi-automatic rifles. And to say that no one does is just to show a blatant ignorance. But it's bigger than that. It's this mindset that they have decided that this is a political issue that they want to win. Here's another question. When they had the White House, the House, and the Senate, why didn't they pass this wonderful legislation 8 years ago when they could have done it? Why didn't they do it then?
Oh, I mean, that's a great point, because they didn't want to do it politically, and they didn't have the courage because they knew it would be a big backlash. Governor, by the way, I'm proud of you. You have been a really strong, articulate voice for the president, his agenda. And I noticed that when a lot of people run for president and they lose, I'll mention some names: Al Gore, unhinged; Hillary Clinton, unhinged. I'd even argue John McCain has lost it in so many ways and is angry that he lost. After all, he wants me to go straight to hell. That wasn't very nice of him. But you're just good-natured. I mean, it seems like you have an ability. You've obviously won big positions and big races in your life. You didn't win the presidency, but you're gracious in loss. And I watch all of these other people change. What's the difference between you and them?
Well, I have a perspective, and that is that the ultimate evaluation of my life is not whether I get elected to a position here on this earth. It's whether or not at the end of life I hear my Creator say, well done, good and faithful servant. And so for me, I'm
By the way, you're going to hear that, and he's going to go, Hannity, you know what? You're a total loser. Get out of my sight.
Well, I think it's important for all of us to understand that when you run for political office, there's no guarantee you're going to win. It's a risk you take. And if you lose, then you respect that the voters decided that they'd rather have someone else. It's painful. You hate it. You don't enjoy it. It's very devastating to you financially and every other way, but that's the risk you take. It's not unlike when a person opens a business. There's no guarantee they're going to be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. You know, they may be the person who loses their life savings trying to open a small business. But you might make it, you may not. You can't be bitter about it. And in this case, I love my country more than I love the notion that I was the only person who could be president.
Yeah. And you know what? We're trying to make the country better. I mean, that's at the end of the day. I mean, we've got a lot of problems in this country, and I'd like to solve them. Now, you've teamed up with a group of people on the Trinity Broadcast Network, and now you have a new weekly news talk show that's premiering Saturday on TBN called Huckabee, but you also continue your work with us on Fox, correct?
That's correct. I'll continue to be a contributor. But, you know, when I left to run for president, obviously they don't leave the shelf space open. And so when I came back to Fox, you know, the show did not come back, but Trinity Broadcasting wanted to bring the show back. I'm very excited about it. And in particular, because I've always felt like that my audience for that show was the Heartland. So we're going to do the show in Nashville, Tennessee, right in the middle of the Heartland in a wonderful location. Got a great theater that's been built out just for this. One of our mutual friends, Kevin Sorbo, is going to be with me on the show on the 20th of October talking about a film that I had a chance to see over the weekend, Let There Be Light. It's going to be fun to talk about. I think you had a hand in that, didn't you, Sean? Am I throwing something at you now?
Governor, I'm the executive producer of the movie. Did you really watch it? So I want to ask you this. Did you cry?
I was very moved. I'll tell you. And what
everybody
I liked
that
about
watches it cries. Everybody.
Yeah, I think so. And here's what I appreciated about it. A lot of faith films, at the end, everything turns out hunky-dory and everybody's, you know, wonderful. I'm not going to give away the ending, but the real life we live as believers is one of struggle and one in which some things don't always work out on this planet, in this life. And I thought that the show was refreshingly honest about that. And I loved it. And so after I screened it and watched it, I got in touch with Kevin and I said, I need you in Nashville. I want you to be on my show. And he has agreed to do it. He's going to be in studio, and we're going to talk about the film. And the week before it opens on the 27th. I hope it will. It's a great success. We need more like it.
In the next week or so, and you know something, in light of all of the evil that we've been talking about in the world, it's pretty amazing. It is an uplifting message, and I'm very proud of it. And we're going to be listening. It comes out October 27th. I'll probably start promoting it next week, and I'm very proud to have been associated with it. I was out of my mind. I had no idea why I got into this. It's a very different thing than I do now, but I'm very proud of the outcome, and it's a movie that families can see, and you can bring your kids of all ages, and it takes you on a roller coaster ride emotionally, and it's got a great message at the end of the day. And it's not like what people think. I think they're going to be very pleasantly surprised. But, Governor, I got to run. We're proud of you. Yeah, I'm proud of you, and we always love having you on the show. Good luck on the new show that you're starting this Saturday, okay?
Thank you, Sean. Good to talk to you.
All right, 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. All right, we're going to air that in full with, of course, nearly 30,000 people, their lights up, their phones up, and it's an amazing moment. And it'll touch you, I promise you. And that was about an hour before the shooting began. We're broadcasting live tonight in Vegas. We will cover what the mainstream media never covers, and that's the truth. Those racing, rushing, impulsively, making this political. Also, the president's interview with Geraldo and how the media lied about what was going on there. We'll set the record straight. 9 Eastern from the Vegas Strip. Hannity tonight on Fox. Thanks for being with us. Back here tomorrow.